Hello everyone and welcome to another EVE Online tutorial, this time about planetary interaction. I'm going to show you everything that has to do with planetary interaction and setting up your colony, setting up your planet and extracting resources from them and making loads and loads of monies. Planetary interaction is a little bit complicated, so it's not going to be easy to explain in detail very quickly. So this tutorial will be quite lengthy, and for your convenience I've placed some fast forward markings on the screen right now. If I get to a point that doesn't interest you, or maybe you already know it or anything like that, feel free to fast forward to the bits that do interest you. So what is planetary interaction in EVE Online? It's basically a form of industry that allows you to exploit the natural resources of a planet and use them to build stuff like components that you can then use in the rest of the EVE world to power ships or to build ships or to, all kinds of stuff. You basically construct stuff on the planet and then you export that product back to your ship where you can then sell it in the space stations and everything all around EVE. Planetary interaction is mostly a passive process, by which I mean that all the resource extraction, all the processing of those resources is all done with, it's all automated. You don't have to constantly, build stuff like you would do in the industry window that I showed you a few tutorials ago. Once you have it set up and you have it running, it's pretty much automated, and you can basically just get by with picking up the final product from your planet, which makes this a very nice and very lucrative way to gain some easy passive money that requires almost no effort. If you do planetary interaction the right way, it can yield you a good few 100 million ISK a month. And that depends on where you do it, how you do it, and what you're producing, stuff like that. But before we get to any of that, let's get the basics out of the way, the theory and the skills. As with anything else in EVE Online, planetary interaction requires a certain amount of skills to do effectively, and we're just going to have a look at what they are. You'll find your planetary management skills under the Planet Management tab, where you will find, first and foremost, Interplanetary Consolidation. For each level in this skill you may install a command center on one additional planet, to a maximum of 6 planets. You can have only one command center per planet, and it cannot be trained on trial accounts. So if you are on a trial account, you can't actually do planetary interaction, because that is just one of the restrictions of a trial account. Once you upgrade your account to a paid account, you of course can do all this wonderful stuff. So yeah, this skill basically allows you to manage multiple planets, up to a maximum of 6 obviously. And without this skill, you'll want this skill to 5 actually. Just basically take the time out to take this skill to 5. You won't regret it. 6 planets is very nice to have and provides very nice income. The next skill is planetology. This one is not really very important, but it's very helpful. The understanding of planet evolution, allowing you to better interpret data from scans of planets for resources. Bonus: this skill increases the resolution of resource data when scanning a planet to allow for accurate surveying. Also cannot be trained on trial accounts. What this basically does is, when you're scanning a planet for resources, and there are quite a number of resources to scan for, it will display in a sort of color. Well, I'll show you. I'll minimize this and I'll go to my one of my planets. This is a basic colony that I set up, and we're gonna set up a fresh one so I can take you through all the steps. What that skill does is, when I were to survey for base metals, you get this nice color graph, color thingy, and you can search for where the resources are most abundant, And that's what that skill does, is it gives you more color levels. So you have this green stuff over here, you have orangey, more orangey, reddish, red to white or pink, and then finally white. And the more skill levels you train with that skill, the more precise you will find your resources on a planet. I find that it's perfectly acceptable to keep that skill at level 4. It hasn't hindered me yet, but maybe training it higher will make it even more useful. Might reveal some things that I'm not seeing at the moment. There's also advanced planetology, which does the same thing for 5 more levels. Also an important one, command center upgrades. Each level in this skill improves the quality of the command facility available to you, in turn allowing for a greater number of connected facilities on that planet. Also cannot be trained on trial accounts. What this basically does is, it upgrades your, it allows you to upgrade your command center 5 times. A command center, like a ship, has CPU and power grid, and the amount of facilities and buildings that you can put on one command center is therefore dependent on how much you upgrade your command center. This is also a skill that I would recommend you get to 5, because that will allow you to get the most out of a single planet, and thus, it's most profitable. And the final skill that I will show you is not under the planet management window, but under the trade window, and that is customs code expertise. And thank you, stupid email, for getting in my way. The expertise in cutting through red tape of customs regulations reduces import and export empire tax in customs offices by 10% per skill level. This does not affect interbus customs offices. Now I will get to what a customs office is in a little bit. That's something I'll get to at near the end of the tutorial. But basically you have to pay a certain amount of tax on everything that you export from a planet. And if you do that in HiSec, you have to pay a certain amount of tax to Concord as well. And what this skill does is it reduces that tax, which is by default 10%, by 10%. And that gets a little bit complicated, because 10% of 10% is 1%. So at level 5 this decreases the tax for Concord at about 5%. It's just a really fancy way of saying that this skill reduces 1% at a time. This is also recommended to get to 5 if you do a lot of planetary interaction in HiSec. Okay, so with your skills in order, it's time to find a planet to build a colony on. There are different types of planets in EVE Online. There are temperate and barren and all kinds of planets with all kinds of different statistics and resources to gather from. So to decide the type of planet that you will be needing, you will first need to decide what you're gonna build. And luckily there are plenty of player build tools that can help you determine all the kinds of stuff that can be built and what is needed to build them. One of such tools is a very handy diagram for all the things that can be built with planetary interaction. This is Corai's planetary interaction diagram. It basically shows everything that can be built, from the most simple processed materials to the final product of advanced commodity. In addition, it will show you the types of planet that the raw materials are found on, and every single connection that is needed to get up in the chain of products. I'm gonna use the self-harmonizing power core to demonstrate how to read this diagram and what information you can obtain from it. Starting at the left hand side, we have a list of planet types that you can find in EVE Online. We have oceanic, lava, temperate, gas, plasma, barren, ice and storm. These are the 8 planet types that you will encounter when you're searching for planets. They are pretty randomly distributed in EVE Online. The most rare one in the list is the plasma planet. You'll have a very hard time finding one of those. After that, the storm planet is probably most rare, and the other ones are pretty even in distribution. Using that, you can easily find out what materials can be found where. It's not possible to build advanced commodities on a single planet. You can only get up to the refined commodities on one single planet, and that has to do mostly with that not all resources are available on all planets first of all, and you'll quickly run into a production problem where you don't have enough CPU and power grid to run enough factories and extractors to, support this entire structure. So you'll probably be building refined commodities on single planets. In this case we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 refined commodities that we need to produce. So that means that for every refined commodity we'll be using one planet. I'm not gonna actually demonstrate 6 planets to you because that would be overkill, but you get the basic idea. We need one planet for the rocket fuel, we need one planet for the silicate glass, we need one planet for the microfiber shielding, we need one planet for the enriched uranium, one planet for the polyramids, and one planet for the genetic enhanced livestock. That's just your 6 planets, and then you have all these materials, and then you can find another planet, I don't know, to combine them into the camera drones, the nuclear reactor, the hermetic membranes, and eventually into the self-harmonizing power core. As you can see, 6 planets is not enough to actually build a self-harmonizing power core. That's why most people just sell the refined commodities on the market to people who then buy them and start combining them from the refined commodities line and up. So it's basically divided into 2 separate production processes if you just do it on a single account. Complicated? Yes, I know, it is very complicated. For the purpose of this tutorial, I'm just going to show you how to produce the refined commodities. So let's take the rocket fuel for example. You'll find that you need to extract from a planet ionic solutions and suspended plasma. You then need to process the ionic solutions into electrolytes and process the suspended plasma into plasmoids. Then you combine the electrolytes and the plasmoids into the rocket fuel, and that's the basic process. At the bottom of the list you can see where ionic solutions are found and where suspended plasma is found. Ionic solutions are found on a gas planet and on a storm planet, and suspended plasma is found on a lava planet, a plasma planet, or a storm planet. So if you want to do this properly, you'd find a storm planet and you go to extract the resources both at the same time. That saves you on the number of planets that you need, and it's easily to manage. So for the rocket fuel, the best planet to pick is a storm planet. So now that we know that, we need to find a storm planet. But what are you gonna do? Are you gonna just race around Eve and visit every single planet in the game until you find a suitable planet? No, of course you're not gonna do that, because we also have a tool to find planets. Yay! This very handy tool is a lifesaver when it comes to finding suitable planetary interaction planets. For the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to look for a storm planet that we can produce our rocket fuel on in a 5 jump vicinity from the Mare system. And what do you know, we have a storm planet in Boyston. So we know what we're gonna produce, and we know where the planet is that we are looking for. There's just one more thing that we need to find out, and that is the tax rate on that planet. Alright, I'm arriving in Boyston at the moment. My faithful home system. And now we need to find the planet that we found on the planet tool. So if you go to your right click menu, just right click anywhere in space, you'll get this nifty menu and you have planets. And as you can see, Boyston has 6 planets to choose from. And the easiest way to find your storm planet is simply to show info on the planet. And lo and behold, Boyston number 1 is the storm planet that we're looking for. Just to show you some more, Boyston 2 would be a gas planet. And Boyston 3 would be another gas planet. And Boyston 6 would be an icy planet. That's just straight. Okay, so the first planet is the one we need. And we're just gonna warp to 0 on it. Just so I can show you it. And in the meantime, I also want to show you the reason why we're here is to check the customs office. Because this is important. If you want a good planet, you need a customs office with a decent tax rate on it. So show info on that and you'll get some information about the customs office on this planet. The customs office is owned by Give Peace a Chance. This is the owner of the customs office, and if we go back, they have a 17% tax rate installed on this customs office, which is reasonable, especially in high sec. This is very reasonable, if you ask me anyway. Yeah, you can see all kinds of other stuff that's not important really. All that's important is the tax rate. Customs offices are all owned by player corporations, which also means that they are able to induce a tax on everything that you do with the planet. If you import or export stuff to and from the planet, they get to tax, what you're exporting or importing. You'll mostly find that player-owned customs offices have a tax rate of anywhere between 10 and 20%. And if you come across a planet with a player-owned customs office that has a tax rate higher than 20%, you might want to find a different planet, because 20%, anything above 20% is pretty high already. There are alternatives to avoiding high taxes, but I'll get to that in a little bit. So just factor this in when you're looking for a planet. Finding one around you is one thing. Finding one with a decent tax rate is a completely different matter. And keep in mind that the owner of a player-owned customs office is always liable to change. Anyone can take it over. It can get sold or whatever. It can be attacked. So keep checking your tax rates even when you are already set up. Let's have a look at our shiny planet. I can show you it in almost all its glory. This is the planet that we will be building our colony on. So let's get ourselves a command center and then we'll be on our way. Oh yeah, by the way, it is worth noting, and this goes pretty much for anything in EVE, the more risk you take, the more and higher your rewards will be. In this case it means that we find a planet in a 0.5 system, but you can also do planetary interaction in low sec and null sec. What this basically means is that if you take a bigger risk, by going into low sec and subsequently into null sec, the planets there are much more profitable. They have more resources. They have more stuff that you can extract from them, and it's generally a better idea to do raw extraction PI over in low sec or in null sec as opposed to high sec. I'm going to do it in high sec right now to show you and to demonstrate you how it works. The principle is pretty much the same in low sec and null sec, except for the transportation to and from there, which I'll cover when we get there. For now, let's get a command center and get this colony rolling. Okay, so we figured out what we want to build. We found a suitable planet with a fairly good tax rate. Now we need to start actually setting up our colony, and for that we are gonna need a command center. Command centers are for sale on the market, and I think you'll find them in most systems actually. I'm gonna find out. I need a storm command center. And we have one in the system, but it's not in the damn station. Great. Okay, I'll just go pick this up and I'll be right back, and I'll meet you back at our planet. Alright, we're back at the planet. I have my command center in my cargo hold. So let's get this ball rolling. First of all, right click on the planet icon, it's the little circle over here, or maybe in your overview if you have that set up. And select view in planet mode. This will bring us to this overview of the planet. You can see the orbit of the customs office ring around here. And you can just pan around this planet like, like a big ball and see whatever there is to see. It's not really that spectacular if you ask me, but it's up to you. We had decided to build rocket fuel on this planet, and for that we're gonna need ionic solutions and suspended plasma. So the first thing we're gonna do is hit the scan button and find ionic solutions. And as you can see, because we're in high security space, the planet doesn't really have to offer all that much. The bars are pretty low all across the field, and you won't be doing very well on a high-sec planet. That's just an advice I want to give you. So let's bring this down until we start seeing some white patches. And this is how you can see where the resources are most abundant. This little white patch here has a few, this few areas have abundant ionic solutions. There are a few patches here which have a little less. And that's basically the gist of it. You can easily see where to find what. This is by far the biggest patch. But we also need suspended plasma. So I'm gonna remember where this patch is, and I'm gonna hope that there is a bunch of suspended plasma in the direct area, which there is. There's a bunch here and there's a bunch here, and the ionic solutions was about here. It actually seems to almost overlap. That's good. You want to pick a place for your command center that has both of the resources that you need in the direct vicinity. So in my case, setting up right about here would be an excellent idea. Yes, right about here, in between that one and that one. So I'll go into the build menu, go to command centers, select the storm command center and put it down anywhere between the fields that we just found. So right about here. And the reason we want to do it between these two fields is because we want to build our colony as compact as we possibly can. Otherwise we have to waste precious CPU and power grid on building long links that encompass the planet, and that's just a waste of resources. So always try to do it between these two fields that we found. Once you placed your command center, you can check out some of the stats. I'm not sure if you can upgrade it yet. Yes, you can. Here you can see the capacity, which is 500 meters cubed. Haha. You can see the CPU usage, the power usage, and the upgrade level. One of the first things you want to do when you're plopping down your command center is to upgrade it as far as it will go. If you trained your command center upgrade skill to level 5, then you will be able to upgrade this to level 6. Which costs you about 6.3 million ISK. So be prepared to invest that in your colony. There will be some other costs when you plop down other buildings, but this is by far the biggest. I think for the purposes of this tutorial I can get away with a little less actually. So I'm gonna put it at level 4. But yeah, this is the first thing you want to do, upgrade your command center. This will give you more CPU, more power grid, but it won't give you more capacity, so keep that in mind. Next you want to hit submit, and then all your changes and all your construction will be finalized and the ISK will be taken from your wallet. Next thing to build is the launch pad. Actually it's called a spaceport. I don't know why I call it a launch pad. It's called a launch pad in this thing here, while it's called a spaceport over there. Why is that? Anyway, select it. And the spaceport is both your connection to the customs office in orbit, as well as the central hub and heart of your colony. So I'm gonna place that as closely as I can to my command center to keep the links between them as short as humanly possible. I'm gonna put that right there. So yeah, this is the central hub that will be delivering and processing all the resources that will be handled through this colony. Next up, you'll want to build 2 extractor control units, one for each resource that we're going to be extracting. If you remember the patches of resources that we found, this is a big one, and it can encompass the entire extractor unit. You can see the range, the big circle that is the range of the extractor unit, and you'll want to keep the majority of this resource within that circle, because you can change over the extractor heads when you place it. I'm gonna try to keep it as close to the colony as possible while still covering a large part of that resource. So I'm gonna place it right here next to my launch pad. Same thing for the other resource. Just select the suspended plasma, scan, and go back to the build menu and put down another one on the other side. There we go. Now you can go survey for deposits. Oh no, you can't survey for deposits because the extractor has to be built first. So submit your changes when you're happy with them, and then select your extractor and survey for deposits. This will throw you back into the regular view until you select one of the resources here. In this case we were looking for suspended plasma, and it shows you the white patch of suspended plasma again. You can shrink this in a little bit to see where the actual center of the resources are, and then you need to install a few extractor heads. So click a few times to make them pop up, and these basically are the links that actually extract the resources. For the average planet in high sec or low sec or null sec, you can get away with about 3 to 5 extractor heads on a good resource patch. God, that was a hard one. So what you're gonna do is just place these extractor heads over that little white patch, and down here you'll see how much units per hour you'll be extracting and in what kind of blocks. Now you can also increase the extraction area size, which indirectly determines how long your program is going to run. You can set this from 1 hour, which means that from the time you start this will run for 1 hour and extract this many units. But you can also, if you don't feel like checking up on this every hour, you can put it on 14 days, which will increase the extraction size immensely. But it will also drastically reduce your units per hour from about 18,000 in this case down to 1,500, which can hamper your production because you need about 3,000 units to keep a factory running. every half hour or so. So that's a little bit of math you'll have to do on your part. And you can see here, this little graph will show you how many resources are extracted each hour. And you'll see that by the end of your 14 days, you'll basically be extracting very little. So what I like to do, and if you have the time for this, it depends on if you want to do this every day or not, but I like to set it on a daily program, so 24 hours. No, not 15 hours. One day 6 hours, one day, let me put it, I'm gonna put it at 1 day. This will cause the extraction rates to go back to relatively normal. So reposition that, and then the program output will be about 6,120 units for every hour that passes. And I won't have to check up on this again until the next day. So with 3 extractor heads, that should be fine. Install the program, and we're going to do the same thing on this side for the ionic solutions. There we go. So now I've done the same with the ionic solutions. Program output of about 7,765 units per hour. 3 extractor heads neatly arranged so they don't overlap. And the program is set for 1 day. So you can click install program, and then you'll be thrown back to your original scan settings. Just go to the whatever. Now you just have to submit, and the programs will start running. You can click on them, and this will be running current cycle. It will deposit the raw resources every 15 minutes. And if you choose to have a longer program that lasts for days or weeks, then this will be a higher number. It can be half an hour, it can be an hour, or it can even be 4 hours. That's all dependent on what you want to do with your colony. If you want to have low output with low maintenance, or high output with high maintenance. I find that setting it on a 1 day cycle seems to work. It's a nice midway point, as far as I can tell. So the rest of the colony is going to be built on the premise that you're selecting a 1 day cycle. If you're selecting longer or shorter cycles, then you'll have to tweak the settings and the setup of your colony a little bit to accommodate it. Okay, so with this set up, we need factories or processors to process these raw materials into something useful. And like I said earlier, one processor needs 3,000 units to process and has a storage capacity of another 3,000 units. And since this is pulling in, let me see, this is pulling in just under 3,000 units, so it will take half an hour to fill one factory. Just gonna put one factory here for the what was it again? Electrolytes. No, the plasmoids. Suspended plasma goes into the plasmoids, and the ionic solutions is turned into electrolytes. So we're gonna build 2 factories, 2 basic factories, and 1 advanced factories that will eventually build the rocket fuel. And of course, if you are doing this in low sec or null sec, then you can expand this, because you'll be pulling in way more resources, so you can afford to have a little more factories to process them. I generally tend to do 3 factories for each in low sec. So 3 factories for one resource, another 3 factories for another resource, and then 3 factories for the advanced facility. So let's submit that. And now what we need to do is to tell the factories what they need to produce. So in case of, on this side we're extracting the suspended plasma, I think, and that needs to be converted into plasmoids. So you go into the factory, click on it, go into the schematics tab, and then you scroll down until you find what you're looking for. In this case I want the plasmoids. Select it and you click on install. That's one down. Do the same thing for the other factory. In this case I need electrolytes from the ionic solutions. And those two combined need to be made into rocket fuel by the advanced processor. Rocket fuel, there we go. So now the factories know what they need to build. I'm gonna submit it again. And now we just need to route the raw resources to the factories so they can build all the things. And the first thing we're gonna do is create a bunch of links between all the buildings that we created here. And this is easily done by holding down the control key or the command key if you're on an iMac. Clicking on a building, and this will create a link for you, which is the white line that I'm dragging around right now. You can drag this to another building, it will snap in place, you can click again and then a link is created. Do this between both of your extractor control units to the launch pad. Basically everything needs to come back to the launch pad because the launch pad is the heart of your colony and it is the buffer for your factories where everything is stored until it can be processed. So connect everything to the launch pad but not to each other. Gonna connect the command center to it, connect this factory to it, connect this factory to it, connect this factory to it. I could connect this one directly, but what you can also do is connect it to a building or a facility that's already connected. And then the link will pass right through it and you can link it that way. It's easier to daisy chain and it saves on a little bit of CPU mostly. So now everything is connected, we can submit the changes again. So now we need to route all the raw resources that we are extracting from the planet into the proper factories. Click on your extractor control unit and under products you'll see that it's extracting suspended plasma and that it's currently not routed anywhere. This needs to be routed to this factory because that's the one producing the plasmoids. And as you can see, the input requires suspended plasma 3000 units. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the products tab of the extractor unit and we're going to select the suspended plasma and we're going to click on create route. And then we're going to click on the launch pad. And then we're going to click on create route. Remember when I told you that the interface wasn't very intuitive? Well, this is why I said that. Click on submit and then the route is created and the suspended plasma will be automatically sent to the launch pad where it will be stored until it's needed. Now we need to route the suspended plasma from the launch pad where it's being stored once it enters. We need to route it from there to the factory so that it can be processed. And if you click on storage, nothing will happen because nothing is there yet. The cycle hasn't finished yet, so we need a different way. Go into routes and you'll find the suspended plasma that we just sent here as an incoming route. Click on that and you can either choose to delete the route or create a new route for that incoming commodity. So we're going to do that. Click on create route, click on the factory where it needs to go, create route, submit. What's going to happen now is that when this cycle finishes, this extractor unit is going to send all the suspended plasma into this launch pad. And the factory will say, hey, I need suspended plasma. And then the suspended plasma will travel to the factory until it's filled up. If the factory is already full, it will mean that the launch pad will have the remainder in it until it's called for. This will mean that you're never wasting any resources by connecting them directly. Now you need to go to the factory and go into the products tab, because this factory is also producing new products that also need to be routed back to the launch pad. So do the same thing, click on the plasmoids, create route, back to the launch pad, and voila. Submit and we're done. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So products, ionic solutions, create route, to the launch pad, create route, into the launch pad, go to routes, and now you have a longer list, so you have to be careful of what you are selecting here. This can get confusing very fast. In this case I want the ionic solutions, the incoming one. Create route to the other factory, create route, click on the factory, go to products, electrolytes, create route, back to the launch pad. So what this will eventually do is that we'll get a launch pad filled with refined commodities. No, not refined commodities, what's the name? Processed materials. We'll get a launch pad full of electrolytes and plasmoids, which is good, but we're gonna take it a step further. We are going to route those two products that we just created to the advanced industry facility so it can make rocket fuel. Click on your launch pad, go to routes, and click on the two commodities that you have right here. The electrolytes and the plasmoids, which can easily be identified by the number 20. I'm gonna start with the plasmoids, create route, and route it to the advanced industry facility. You can, by the way, you can leave the amounts standard as they are. You don't have to alter that at all. Just leave that as it is. Create route, and then do the same for the other resource, because an advanced industry facility needs to have two resources to operate. The electrolytes, I think it was. Create route to the industry facility, create route. Submit. And then we can check the incoming routes here, and we'll see electrolytes and plasmoids, which are the inputs for this facility to produce the rocket fuel. Lastly, we want to route the rocket fuel back to the launch pad. So I'm gonna do that like that, and voila, we have automated the entire process from raw extraction to final product, and the final product will end up in the launch pad. So from here you basically don't have to really do anything. This will keep running for a day, everything will be automated, and when you come back tomorrow you'll find that your launch pad is filled with rocket fuel, which is good because it limits the amount of interaction you need to do with your planet. You can just turn it on and forget about it. Easy as that. Do keep in mind though that eventually your launch pad is going to fill up. It only has 10,000 M3 worth of cargo storage, and that has to be shared with all the raw resources coming in, and every step in between takes up space for your launch pad. So every once in a while you're gonna have to empty it, and if you're on a one-day cycle, that means you're probably gonna have to empty it every single day, or at least every 2 to 3 days. Otherwise it will clog up your entire production line. That's maybe one of the advantages of having a longer multi-day processor or process for your extractor units. But if you don't mind flying up and down to your planets every single day or every 3 days, then this is a very good solution. Just make sure you empty it on time, otherwise you'll have problems. I'm just gonna leave this running for a little bit and generate a little bit of commodity so you can see the actual process. When we have some final products in our launch pad, I'll come back and show you how to export them from the planet so you can take them to the market and sell them or process them further or whatever you want to do with it. Alrighty, we're back with our colony. Some time has passed and the factories have been doing their job. And the launch pad is filled with delicious rocket fuel. Yay. Okay, so this is our final product. This is what we intended to build on this planet. Now we need to get it off. We need to get it off this planet, and we need to get it in our cargo hold so we can sell it or process it or use it to build stuff, whatever you want to do with it. The easiest way to get things off your planet is to use the customs office that's in orbit. It's directly linked to your launch pad, which means that you can easily drag and drop things between them. And what you're basically gonna do is fly up to the customs office and collect your rocket fuel from right there. So I'm gonna show you that as an example right now. Still in space right here. And when you're in the system with your planet, you can go to planets, or you can bookmark it if you want, but this is the rudimentary approach. Boyston 1, customs office, warp to 0. It's that easy. And keep in mind that I haven't moved anything yet. The rocket fuel is still in my launch pad on the planet. This is the customs office around the planet. You'll find these just about everywhere, in every system around every planet. Right click on it, access customs office, and you'll get this little window. Above here you can see the name. Directly below that you can see the tax rate that applies on everything you do here. The storage of the customs office, which is 35,000 M3, and the storage of your launch pad, which is 10,000 M3. As you can see, the rocket fuel is displayed here because it's still in the cargo hold for the launch pad. And getting it up here is as easy as just clicking on it, dragging it, putting it there, and then hitting transfer. Before I hit transfer though, take note of the transfer cost. This is the tax that you pay for transferring your goods off the planet. And that tax is basically that 17% that's displayed right here, and the taxable value for this is a static number that is made up by CCP, the game developer, and it's not based on actual market value. So if it might make sense, it might not make sense. It's a pretty good average basically, but once you start paying more than 20% for exporting stuff, then you're basically overpaying. Just keep in mind, make sure that you have enough ISK in your wallet to cover these costs, and don't hit transfer out of the blue without checking, because it might drain your entire wallet. So I'm not gonna transfer everything, because there's a second alternative way to get things off your planet. I'm just gonna transfer half for demonstration purposes. Transfer costs 61,000 ISK. Hit transfer, and then you'll have the rocket fuel in this cargo hold, just like you would in any other cargo hold, and from there you can just drag it to your ship's cargo hold. And there we go. So this is one way, but what are you gonna do if the tax rate on this customs office is way too high? Maybe they're charging 25%, maybe they're charging 50%, hell, they might be even charging you 100% taxes. What you can do in that case, and I'm gonna go back to the planet view for this. What you need to do in that case is use your command center, because your command center also has a feature where it can launch cargo into space. And what we're going to do for that is, here's our rocket fuel, it's currently in the launch pad. We're going to click on storage, and then we're going to click on expedited transfer. And this will basically be a manual transfer of goods between two buildings. Click on that, and then click on your command center, and then you get this window here. This is the launch pad, so this is where the goods are currently residing. This is what we want to transfer, so we're going to drag that into here to be transferred. Keep in mind that you have a transfer timer. The more cargo you move at once, the higher the cooldown time will be. If you move 503 worth of stuff at once, then the cooldown time will be 20 minutes, so keep that in mind. This doesn't have any cost associated with it. It's completely free to move stuff. It just has a, the timer to keep in mind. Click on execute transfer, and then your command center will have the storage or the stuff that you just moved over, the rocket fuel. And from here you can click on the launch tab. You can click on rocket fuel, add it to the payload, and then launch it into space. Contact, yay. So now your stuff has been launched into space and you just have to go and pick it up. It's been launched to a random location around the planet. In order to find the exact location, you go into your journal and you go into the Planetary Launches tab right here. And here you'll have a list of any launches that are still in space and are ready to be picked up. And from there it's just right clicking on the entry, warp to location,
warp drive,
and you'll be heading there momentarily. One thing to note is that launching your cargo this way does also cost money, and as a way of evading taxes it's a good way, but it's still equivalent to about 15% of regular tax that you'd otherwise pay in a customs office. So if you have a customs office that's really charging very high taxes, this is a good way to minimize your expenses. So this will cost you 15% at absolute maximum. Once you reach the can, you can just open it like any other cargo container, open cargo, and there's the other 50 rocket fuel that we launched from the planet. Loot all, and there we have both. Stack all to make it one nice stack, and this is just another item in the EVE world that we can interact with, sell on the market. There's market details available for it. So yeah, you can basically do whatever you want with it. Once you have your stuff in space, there's basically nothing stopping you from doing it, and in high sec it's pretty easy to collect your planetary interaction goods. But if you're doing this in low sec or in null sec, it's going to be very dangerous getting to your planet. You'll be dealing with gate cams, with warp bubbles to get through, and if you're going to do that in a standard Tech 1 hauler or anything like that, you're going to die pretty quickly and you'll probably have a hard time reaching your planet in the first place. My advice to you, if you're going to do this in low sec or null sec, would be to invest in this beauty of a ship, or in its other race variants. This is a blockade runner. It's a Tech 2 cargo ship. Let me see, where is it? Show info. And what this basically is a cargo ship that's able to cloak while warping. And this is very useful because you can't catch what you can't see. To give you an example, I'm now cloaked, and any other ship that's cloaked would be sitting still in space. If you're cloaked you can't move, that's basically the idea. But with a covert ops cloak, which this ship can fit, you can freely move around while you are cloaked. And you can even warp while cloaked.
Warp drive active.
So this is obviously a major advantage, as you can just really easily cloak as soon as you decloak on the gate, warp to the next gate, jump in and make a very quick getaway. These ships will, cost a little bit of money. They are roughly 150 ISK on the market at the moment. But they are very well worth it, especially if you are doing planetary interaction in low sec or null sec. Especially in null sec you will absolutely need one of these ships. I'll quickly let you know which ships exactly these are. You'll find them under ships, then industrial ships, transport ships, and then you have 2 variants in each race. One has additional armor, repairing stuff and extra HP to survive a camp, and the other one is the covert cloak version. For the Omar, that is the Pro Raider. This is this little ship. For the Kaldari, it's the crane. This one. For Galante, it's the Viator, the ship I'm flying currently. And for the Mimitar, it's the Prowler, which is this one. They're very expensive, especially if you're a new player, you know, it's gonna be a hefty price tag. But then again, Planetary interaction is a very lucrative way of making some very easy money. Once you have it set up on 6 planets, you can easily afford this in a matter of 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe, if you're doing it properly. So skill for the ship, if you're planning on doing this properly. The skill requirements are kinda steep. You need racial industrial to level 5 and transport ships to level 1. And the transport ship skill is about 30 million ISK. So you have a goal to strive for. Well, this concludes the tutorial on planetary interaction. I hope it was very useful to you. If you have any further questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Also make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I also have Twitter, I also have Facebook. Feel free to send me a message on there and you know, keep up on anything that's happening on this channel. And I hope to see you some other time on another video. Thank you for watching and see you later.